This is episode 31 of the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. Today we're talking about holiday blues. We'll look at how they're different than just holiday stress. Just because you're supposed to be happy over the holidays doesn't mean you always feel that way. And there are things you can do to move through the holiday season, even when you're feeling blue. In this podcast, we discuss the 5 signs of holiday blues, learn the 7 typical causes of holiday blues, and get into action with 10 different activities that can help with holiday blues. Let's get started. This is the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast, and I'm Kim McLaughlin, your host. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, inspirational coach, speaker, and best-selling author. I help people feed their soul by putting food in its proper place as nourishment and help them develop more functional skills to deal with their lives. Today, we're talking about the holidays. It's still that time of year when the holidays are going on, and I wanted to go in a little deeper. We've been talking a lot about holiday stress and how that can manifest in overeating. And today I want to take it more to the emotional side because even though we think it's supposed to be this really wonderful, happy time of the year, we're supposed to be full of peace, joy, love, parties, and family gathering. Truthfully, that's just not always the case for many people. The time of year that we're going through right now and the December time period can really bring out feelings of sadness, loneliness, and anxiety, which is well beyond the idea of stress, which we've been talking about in other podcasts. I just thought this was a great time of year to talk about emotions and how those show up over a holiday time period. And I talk a lot about emotions in my book, Feed Your Soul, Nourish Your Life, the 6-step system to peace with food. And looking at emotions and those feelings is one of the 6 core components to feed your soul. So today I want to go more into how those emotions show up in holidays and what you can do about it. I want to first talk about what is holiday blues. What does that look like? Because we might not have the same idea of it. And I just want to make sure we're kind of on the same page when we look at what holiday blues is. It's really a time when you feel more sad, more lonely, more bored, at loss with your life and at loss with what's going on around you. And it's also a time of depression. And when I'm talking about holiday blues, it can be when you have some kind of mental health issue and the holidays make it even worse. So let's say you have depression, bipolar illness, anxiety. It could show up as even more symptoms over this holiday time. And that would mean to me, if you're having more symptoms and you already have a mental health diagnosis, is really check in with your psychotherapist or psychiatrist or somebody in a profession that could help you deal with those mental health issues. And I want to make it clear that really all of us can suffer from holiday blues, whether we have any pre-existing mental health issues or not, because there's a lot of expectation that comes on over this holiday period, and that really kind of increases feelings when we don't know what to do. So what we talked about is what they are, and let's now talk about what causes them, what leads us into feeling those holiday blues. And there's a lot of different reasons. And I want you to recognize whether any of these fit for you. Do you have any kind of stress going on in your life? Are there more expectations of you and what you need to do over this time period? Is there a sense of fatigue, a sense of being really tired when we're going into the winter time, which is also this December time period is winter? The feeling of feeling fatigued and feeling tired can really show up. And it might end up that feeling of fatigue then shows up in holiday blues, where you might not want to be a part of holiday opportunities or experiences because you're just tired. Another reason for holiday blues is unrealistic expectations. Are you expecting too much of yourself or expecting actually too much of other people and what you or they can do over this holiday? And I find a lot of times there's this unrealistic expectation that sets us up to want to have life look a certain way or wanted a holiday to look a certain way. And it just isn't real, and it doesn't, things just don't happen that way. And from having those unrealistic expectations, we then feel sad and upset and blue over the holidays because we can't meet those ideas. So think about that if that's happening for you, in order to look at how you might release those expectations. Another cause of holiday blues is over commercialization. My goodness, there were holiday movies on for months before this time period. And this over commercialization of holidays makes it sound like everybody feels happy and is in a perfect relationship and has a lot of money and that everything is going wonderfully and they feel great. And that's just not so. There is this commercialization about how the holidays are supposed to look or what we're supposed to do. And we often buy into it because we're bombarded with all of these messages on the television, on the internet. Oh my gosh, in every store, people talk about it, and it becomes really tough to move out of that commercialization and into the idea of what do I really want and what really works for me over this holiday time period. Another piece of holiday blues can come from financial stress. There can be expectations again with that commercialization that we buy things, that we have presents ready. I've heard stories of like that we're supposed to have an extra present at our house in case somebody shows up and we don't have a present for them. Well, that to me is crazy. One, I don't expect anybody to show up without me knowing about it. And if they do, if I don't have a present, I don't have a present. I've really let go of that idea that I have to be prepared for every moment and have a present for everybody at every moment. To me, that's unrealistic, and that really puts stress on me. And it also puts stress on my pocketbook, so to speak. It makes it so I think I have to buy everybody something. And I've come to realize that I just don't have to buy everybody something. And I want to encourage you to wonder if going into financial stress or spending something over your budget is really something that you want to do, and really think about whether you want to go into the new year with credit card debt or heavy debt or owing things for these commercial items that you give to somebody else. I've really been challenging myself to think about what do I buy, and is it really something that I want to get for this person, and is it something meaningful, and if not, then I don't buy it. And that's what I've come up with, and it works really well. Another cause of holiday blues is the inability to be with your family and friends. We live in a society where our family and friends often don't live close to us. They live across the country or across the world, and there isn't always a way that we can get together. And I hear people talk about this every holiday about how upset they are that they can't see a certain person or that they can't go to 2 or 3 different homes to see people because they're too far away. And it really can make us feel sad and upset and lonely because we can't meet all these needs of being in different places at once. And when we overthink it and overextend ourselves to try and be with all of these people, it ends up being really tough and can make us feel really sad. So just start noticing if you're having this sadness or loneliness come up, these holiday blues come up, because you can't see the people that you want to see. And just notice that and acknowledge it. The last thing that I think really causes a lot of holiday blues is the death of someone close to you. And it can show up in so many different ways, and it can sometimes be really unexpected that you didn't expect to feel so sad at the holidays because somebody is missing, somebody has died throughout the year, or they possibly have even died longer than a year ago. But the idea of their death, the loss, shows up for you in sadness over the holidays. Just take some time to notice if that's what's going on for you and be honest about it. Also, the holiday blues can show up not just in the death of someone, a person. It can be about the loss of a pet. I know a lot of people that feel significant loss and significant sadness when they have a loss of a pet, especially if the pet died recently. It can be really hard to go through a holiday because they feel as close to you as somebody that you know who dies. And I want you to recognize that, or I encourage you to recognize that that can be a valid reason to feel sad over the holidays, is when you have the loss of a cherished pet.
Hi, everyone. This is Kim, and my book is out. Feed Your Soul, Nourish Your Life, a 6-step system to peace with food is live. I recommend you get it. It has all my 6 components of feeding your soul, as well as my own story. Pick it up now. You can find it on my website at feedyoursoulunlimited.com. Thanks.
So we talked about what the holiday blues are and what causes them. So I want to get into now, what can we do? Because you're not alone. You're not the only person to feel this way. And if you're not feeling all in for the holidays, you're not like Scrooge. It's just that you have feelings, and they're real. And it's common to have feelings over the holidays. And it's something that we don't often talk about. We don't talk about that we're feeling a sense of loss, or we're feeling tired, or we're overextended, or we're in financial pressure. We don't talk about that. And then we end up feeling sad over the holidays. So at least acknowledge that this is how you're feeling. And I know you're not the only one. I talk to people every day about this. You are not the only one. The second thing you can do is be kind to yourself, and to not chastise yourself, to not get angry at yourself about how you feel, because there is no right way to feel over the holidays. There just is how you feel. And even though in the movies, that over commercialization of we're supposed to be happy, peaceful, spending time with people that we love, that doesn't always happen. Or sometimes we actually do spend time with people that we love, but we don't feel happy. Just acknowledge and be kind to yourself that that's just how you feel. The third thing you can do about holiday blues is take a few minutes to see what you can do. What could you do differently? As anybody who listens to this podcast a lot, I talk every week about how to get into action, how to start doing something differently, because we can have these thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, but until we get into action, until we do something different, we're not going to have a different result. If you keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results, well, they say that's the definition of insanity, right? And I want you to move into a different kind of action so that you can have a different kind of result. And even though we get into action, it doesn't mean that you're going to feel 100% happy and overjoyed and peaceful. But it could mean that you move into a little more sense of peace, a little more sense of joy, and feeling more connected to yourself with what's going on for you over this holiday season. So here's some ideas about what you can do. If you're feeling lonely because you don't have a significant other, or you don't have the family that lives close by, or actually you don't have a family that you really want to be involved in, the holidays can be really tough. And you might long to be with somebody in your family, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't work. And when we're feeling lonely, sometimes what we tend to do is we tend to isolate ourselves and isolate ourselves from other people. And that really can end up making you feel even worse. When you're feeling lonely and you isolate, that it can increase the loneliness. So some things you can do to get into action is actually to resist the temptation to be alone all the time. Even though you feel like you wouldn't be good company, nobody will want you around, or you're so sad that you might cry, I promise you there are people that would love to be around you and would love to help support you. And if it isn't with people that you know, actually just get up and walk around and take some short little trips to places like a coffee shop or a local store to just be around other people and to kind of feel the energy of being around those other people can be really helpful when you feel lonely. The goal is just to be around people, not about having to have conversations or having to be in any type of particular community with them, but just to get out and to be around others. This is actually still helpful even if you're an introvert, because I know my introverted friends are going to say, well, I like my time alone. It's important for me to spend time alone. I get too overwhelmed around other people. Yes, I understand that. But even when you're an introvert and you're feeling lonely, get up and be around other people. It can really, really be helpful. Another thing to do to be in action when you feel lonely is to find a new way to keep yourself occupied so you don't focus on the aloneness. Now, what is that? So, finding a new way to feel occupied is doing things that are different. And it might be taking a walk to a place that you've never been for, or walk a different direction. I actually like to do that a lot. I like to go in different directions to kind of feel more energized and to see new scenery. Also, when I think of how to be occupied in a different way, to me, it also means like maybe doing a different craft or activity. Let's say you have been looking at Pinterest and you see a certain thing that you wanted to make. How about spending some time doing that? Because being an activity can actually really help get you out of that feeling of loneliness. So do something different is really my point in this. The third thing to do to be in action if you're feeling lonely is to call someone you think who might be feeling similarly to you. You know somebody who's had a loss or they're feeling lonely or they've expressed not having anybody to go out and be with. And what happens is when you call them or spend some time engaging with them is that you might find that actually they really need to talk. And it makes us feel better to have that kind of connection. And it also makes us feel better to have some type of feeling of being of service to another. So when you're feeling lonely, you call somebody else who's feeling lonely and you reach out and go, how are you doing? What's going on for you? And they talk about it. They can end up feeling better and feeling connected to you. You feel better because you feel connected to them and you've made an impact in somebody's life. It's a really interesting idea that when you're feeling lonely, reach out to others who might be feeling lonely, and then you'll have that sense of community, which is what we're looking for to help us move out of that lonely feeling. A thing you can do if you've had the loss of someone significant that might be recently or even in the past, those feelings come up and they come up a lot during this holiday time of year. And remember, I include with that loss of someone significant. I even include the idea of a beloved pet that's died. We can think that we're not even supposed to feel happy over the holidays if somebody has died or if a pet is gone, that we're actually going to be disrespectful of their memory if we're enjoying ourselves or happy. And that often comes up for people that they say, I shouldn't be feeling happy because my partner's dead or somebody I loved was dead. And that can make it really hard because we then go into this feeling of guilt, that kind of survivor guilt that we're here and they're not. And how can we feel happy if they're not here? In order to get into sadness, I think we need to remember that we all experience some degree of sadness when somebody close to us or a beloved pet has died. We just feel sad. And I want to encourage you to not get caught up in how you should feel or what you should do. There are a lot of shoulds that happen when somebody's died, and which is a whole different story, and podcast is about how to deal with death. I just hope you can remember that it's okay to feel sad over the holidays, and that remembering to do what's right for you is the best way you can handle those holiday blues. Another way to get into action when we've had the loss of someone significant is to cry. People, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to acknowledge that you missed your loved one. That's just what happens. And sometimes we'll isolate and not go to a place because we're afraid that we're going to cry. You're going to cry. Be okay with it, because other people know it, and it's just what happens when we feel sad. Another thing to do is to go outside and just be in nature. It can be such a centering and calming effect, and it can really be soothing when you're feeling down and sad and lonely. So going outside is another option. Lastly, what I wanted to say about if there's been a loss of a loved one, that you can do something in regards to getting connected to a faith organization and being around people that will accept you just the way you are, tears and all. I just recently heard about something called Blue Christmas Service, which is certain Christmas services that offer special accommodations to those who are struggling during the holiday season, for people that are feeling really sad. And I thought that was just nice. I wanted to bring it up. It is something you just look up, Blue Christmas Services in your area, and see if there's any going on. That might be a very comforting place to go, because people will understand and get where you're coming from, that you're feeling sad because they're feeling sad too. So what can you do when you're longing for holidays of the past and you're thinking about how holidays should be? We tend to think that holidays are supposed to be a certain way, and we can focus on what's missing now. We think that they're supposed to be a certain way or different than they really are, or people are supposed to be around that aren't around. There's a lot of kind of ways that this shows up for that kind of longing about how holidays should be. And it just doesn't always work out that way. And I can't tell you how many people I talk to that feel so upset about the holidays because it's not the way they want it to be. And they're not finding a way to be okay with the way it is and make it work for them. So here's some ways to get into some actions. One is, I love this one, is get into creating a new tradition. I know when we long the holidays in the past and how the holidays should be, because it's set up in our mind about what holidays are supposed to look like. But if you created a new tradition, it's all new, it's all exciting, and it can be something that becomes the way you want it to be. I created a new holiday tradition with my family, and it is going to a candle lighting service. We never did that when I was a kid, and it's one of the things I look forward to the most at the holiday time, is going to this candle lighting service. And it was a way for me to create the holiday that I wanted now, and it really serves me well. So consider, what's a new tradition you might create. If you're longing for that holiday in the past or the way it should be, and it feels really difficult, get out of town. Go do something different. Go somewhere different. Go, if you're in the snow, go somewhere sunny. If you're somewhere sunny, go somewhere in the snow and have a different activity. One of my most favorite holidays was when my family went on a cruise over Christmas. It was so great, and it got us away from the house and all that was going on. And I look back with such fond memories of having that getaway over the holidays, because it recreated a new way of looking at the holidays and broke up having to have it look a certain way. So I'm all in for getting out of town and doing something really, really different. Another way to get into action around how the holidays should be is really checking on your spending, people, and looking at whether you're overspending. This is something that can create more holiday blues and actually holiday stress, is buying too many things, buying things for other people, buying things that you can't afford. And when January 1st comes, you end up feeling really upset with yourself, and actually worse when the credit card statement comes. And I don't want to set you up for that. And I don't want you to set you up for overspending because I don't think those things are really worth it. And maybe it could be more about considering what you want for this other person if you're buying things for them, and engage with them in a different way and engage with them rather than with the things and around activities. I'll say it again. I don't think the holidays are meant for overspending, and I know they're not meant for going into debt over. In the end, I want you to make this holiday time, this December time period, the best it can be in whatever way works for you. And it doesn't have to be the way that it looked last year. It doesn't have to be the way it looks on the Hallmark Channel, but just make it what you want it to be. And I know I've had plenty of holidays of where I was alone and I spent time by myself, and I realized that I could have felt really sad at that time. And I decided to reach out to friends and to engage in activities that really worked for me. And I really have fond memories of that time because I made the holiday my own, even though I was feeling sad that I was alone and sad that I was single. It ended up being a good time, and I really made it work for myself. One last thing I want to talk about is that there's a difference between the holiday blues, which typically go away when the holidays end, and more severe depression, which lasts longer and interferes with your activities of daily living. If the holiday season is going on and you're severely depressed, seek out a mental health professional. If it's past January 1 and those holiday blues are still continuing, seek out a mental health professional. I think it is a gift you need to give yourself if you're feeling so depressed and so sad that you can't do your activities of daily living, which is like sleeping and eating and going out with people and going to work or going to school, or you're in bed, or you have a severe depressed mood, or you're thinking about wanting to hurt yourself. Please seek out a licensed psychotherapist. There are plenty of things that they can do to help you out, and I want to make sure that you get all the help that you need. There is a way to move through these holiday blues. It's just a time in the calendar that will move away, and then we're into the first of the year. I want you to know that I'm thinking about all of you, and that if you are having any of your holiday blues, please try the things that I've talked about, because I think they can be really helpful for you. And I will come back in another week and we'll talk more on the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. Thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. We come to you every Monday with fresh new ideas to help you end emotional eating and put food in its proper place as nourishment. Please be sure to subscribe to this podcast and review it and let us know what you think. Thank you for joining us.